Welcome to the Be Magnetic podcast, where we ignite deep abundance and step into soul-led success without losing joy, freedom, or peace. This is for the woman who is bored, disconnected, and exhausted trying to win a game she doesn't want to play anymore. If your soul is calling for more flow, more ease, more magic, but you're not sure how to get there, get ready to become magnetic and create a life that is as juicy and abundant as you've always dreamed it could be. Hi and welcome to the podcast. Let's talk about the most expensive belief you'll ever hold. If you're tired and exhausted trying to win a game that you no longer want to play, especially one that leads to financial freedom and abundance, this episode is for you. I want to talk about a belief today that costs you way too much, that way too many people still hold. And I hope my intention with today's podcast episode is to help you shift this belief so that you don't have to pay this expensive cost of holding it anymore, so that your life can change, so that you can feel more easeful, more excited, and more free, both emotionally, physically, and financially. So if that is okay with you, I'm excited that you're here. So grateful that we get to spend the next 10-20 minutes or so together. And thank you so much as well for supporting the podcast. Make sure, if you haven't done so yet, to give the show a rating, a 5-star rating. I would highly appreciate that. And of course, share the episode if you have taken anything away from it at the end of it. And I do really appreciate your support. So the belief that is the most expensive belief that you'll ever hold is the belief that there is not enough. And I want to kick us off by sharing a bit about why this is the most expensive belief. And I need to dive into this by sharing some of my story, because a couple of years ago, I was at the point in my business where we actually did really good. So I had some of the most abundant and biggest sales months back to back, and we were actually doing really good. And I was really excited about that, because I obviously had worked towards that for a really long time. But instead of really truly feeling like, yes, I've made it, yes, it is enough, I did feel like it was still not enough. And what I did back then was basically just set a bigger goal. So every time I hit a bigger number, I just set a bigger goal. And it went on like that for a couple months. And then after I repeated that for 2-3 months, what happened was the next month I would fall short on my goal. I had still made a good amount of money, but I fell short on it. And so instead of being then okay, I'm actually good, I'm making enough, right? Let's celebrate the incredible months that I just had, I was like, no, I need to achieve that goal because it's not enough yet. And so I pushed myself to meet that goal for months and months. And every month I would fall short. And every month that I fell short, I felt a little bit more frustrated, a little bit more resentful towards my business, towards myself, and what had unfolded, right? And that fast forward led me to completely resent my business, and eventually led me to completely withdrawing, wanting to quit the business, wanting to stop, and then led to the whole pivot year that is a familiar story on the podcast, where I basically took an entire month off, which kickstarted this almost 2-year-long process of completely shifting my business. But that was probably not the worst result of pushing myself to constantly want more and bigger, better, and faster. The worst thing probably was that the bigger my income goals became, and the more I believed that I hadn't enough, the more I made other life experiences dependent on the money that I made. So at that point, after I've, already built some frustration and some resentment towards the business not growing anymore, I actually felt like, or I told myself that, okay, I can move into a new home once I have made that amount of money, or like once I finally hit this number that I set to myself, I was able to move and like do this and do that. And I was kind of making all these life experiences that I wanted to have, that had nothing to do with business, dependent on hitting that income goal. And that just like expanded the resentment and the frustration that I felt, because now I felt even more pressure to have to exceed that goal or hit that goal so that I could finally live my life. And that then actually led me to pivoting, because I was like, okay, I can't continue living that like this. This is not making me happy. I want to live my life, because that is honestly the most important thing in my life. I don't care how much money I make, as long as I live my life to the fullest, and I can actually, with what I make today, live my life to the fullest. So I don't care if I grow or make more money someday or not at all. So that was kind of like the shift that I made then. But eventually, the lowest point in my business came from believing that I did not have enough yet, although I had more than enough. And I know this is such a common belief, and it is costing you so much, because it is costing you your happiness, your joy of life. It is also costing you probably your growth in business, because if you didn't have the belief right now, if you were actually happy and content with how much you're making, your business would grow way quicker and way more in alignment than it does if you keep pushing. And that is kind of what happened to me as well. Ever since I've pivoted, my business is thriving. It's doing better than it has ever done before, and I feel better in it than I've ever done before. And I don't set hard income goals anymore. I don't push. I don't care how much money the business makes, as long as I feel good doing the things that I'm doing in order to make money. So this belief that there is never enough, it does burn you out, because you're constantly aiming for more, better, bigger, and faster, and there is never a destination that you ever can arrive, because there is none, right? As long as you believe that there is never enough, you run a marathon without a goal, without a finish line. And that is not healthy in no context at all. So let's talk about how we can actually shift this. There is an important key when it comes to shifting to enoughness, I have more than enough right here, right now, because 99% of us do have more than enough right now, right here, if we look at it objectively. So the important key when it comes to shifting this belief is to trust and build a relationship with source, with a greater power, universe, God, angel, spirits, whatever you want to call it. You have to build a relationship with them for greater abundance, because only when you trust in a higher power, you're able to actually surrender the fact that maybe you don't know how next month's bills are paid, right? Because enough is a momentary situation, right? Because you don't know what the future brings. You don't know what will happen. And so this feeling or this belief of there's never enough does stem from us looking into the future and wanting to predict every single possible instance and prevent it or take care of it before it ever happened, right? But if we look at it objectively right now, right here, you can pay your bills, you have food, you can do what you want to do today, tomorrow, even maybe next week or the next couple months. And that is enough. So you have more than enough. And as long as you trust in a higher power guiding you and supporting you and taking care of you, you know that in the future you'll always be taken care of. And in a practical way, this looks like, for example, we had to buy a lot of furniture recently for the new home that we moved into. And obviously that was a big investment at the time we purchased those. And the way I do my finances is often like, I usually spend less than I make, and so I have a lot of money accumulated, but the money that I accumulate always has a purpose. Some of the money I accumulate has a purpose to just provide independence. So it's in my independence fund. It's not designed to spend, it's just designed to be my independence fund, my wealth fund, stuff like that. But then there's also money accumulated for opportunities, for up-leveling, for things like buying furniture. But at the time, the money that I had accumulated was at a different purpose. I did have some money accumulated for the furniture, but the investments that we made into the furniture happened to exceed the money that I had accumulated for that purpose. So I used some of the money that I had accumulated for other purposes in order to buy the furniture. And I could have easily, and if I'm being honest with you, I did for a moment fell into this scarcity mindset of there's not enough, I have to make this back again and all this stuff, right? But I did kick myself out of it because I know it doesn't serve me, right? And I just want you at this point to know that it is normal to feel scarce, to have those never enough thoughts sometimes, but the important part is that we don't act upon it. So it could have easily gone down that spiral, but I chose not to. I chose to decide that at this time, in this moment, I had enough money and I was so grateful that I got to invest into all the furniture. And I stopped worrying about what came in the future. I stopped worrying about the other things that I had accumulated the money for in the first place and how I could afford them now. I trusted in a higher power and trusted that there's going to be a way in which this money is going to come into my life so I can do these things. And that is how you counteract the belief of not enough. And that brings me probably to the most important part of today's episode, which is enough is a choice. In that moment, I chose that I had enough. I had enough for everything that I wanted to do in that moment. And there was no need for me to worry about in the future, because I knew that at any given time in the future, I have the choice to believe that there is enough. And if I believe that, and if I trust in the guidance that I receive every single day, then there will always be enough in every given moment. Maybe from today, if I consider 3 weeks from now or even 6 months from now, today, I can't see how there's going to be enough, but I don't have to see how there's going to be enough because I know there will be enough. Because I choose that there's enough. Which brings me to the last part when it comes to shifting this belief is financial freedom is feeling safe and secure where you are. And emotional safety and security when it comes to finances is a practice. It is something that we have to dedicate time and energy towards working to. And I do have two incredible freebies that help you with that. Right? I will link them in the show notes as well. It is something that we build from within. And if we can build this feeling of safety and security from within, that we are financially safe and secure where we are right here, right now, it becomes easy to choose that there's enough. And it becomes easy to trust that there will be enough in the future. That being said, I hope you had the most powerful mindset shift with that. I hope that you already feel how you have more than enough. I hope that you feel relief around maybe some of the, what is this? I did want to do a thumbs up. But anyway, I hope that you feel safe and secure and more ease around money. And if at all, I hope that this shifted the most expensive belief that you'll ever hold. And if you want to have more conversations around these, there are incredible episodes also on the podcast. They are also linked in the show notes below. It's episode 37, 139, and 166. I highly empower you to dive into to learn more about how to shift your mindset for more success and more abundance. Thank you so much for listening, and I talk to you soon. Bye.